Hi, my name is Sean Razzie, and I'm going to show you how to model, texture, animate, and render the Forbidden Donut. Okay, so here we are in our default scene, and we have a light, a camera, and a cube, and we're going to keep the light in the camera. We're going to take the cube, hit X, and delete it, and then we're going to hit either Add, or you can go to Mesh, Torus, and this torus, you're going to see this little menu down here. And this is the add mesh menu. Whenever you add a new mesh, you're going to see a menu down here. And if you don't see that menu, then what happened is you clicked off or did something else, and that's fine. You just delete it, Shift A, and add a new torus, and then make sure you hit this menu. And then you want to bring, the only thing you want to do is take that minor radius and bring it up a little bit like this to get kind of that nice donut shape. And really, most of these values, by the way, are completely artistic. You can do whatever you want. This method's going to work no matter what you put in here. Don't copy me. It'll be better if you just kind of make what you want to make here. So then we don't need this menu anymore, so we can click off. And then the next thing we need to do is remove some of this geometry to get those cool like triangle shapes and just funky looking polygons that we saw in the demo. So we want to click this, make sure it's selected, and hit modifier, this wrench or a spanner if you're from the UK, and go to add modifier, and we're going to decimate the geometry. And what decimate does, this decimate modifier, it will collapse geometry using this ratio. And what that means is you see all this geometry, it's going to take this and it's going to like remove parts of it by scrunching it up and kind of stretching faces out and stuff, and it creates a really nice effect if you're doing low poly especially. You'll see like that looks a lot like low poly art. So low poly, just by the way, I'll be teaching you lots of stuff about low poly later, but if you're into low poly art, the decimate modifier can be your best friend. It's pretty bad practice if you're actually modeling anything that's going to be used anywhere, but if you're just making nice renders, use the decimate modifier. It's excellent. It's super easy. So we're going to bring this down just until we see something we like. Some nice geometry, or, we see lots of cool triangles like right here. I quite like. This looks really good to me. And you'll see if we hit tab and go into edit mode, that's not actually going to be, also, by the way, my screencast keys aren't on. That's fine. So the geometry here is going to be normal compared to what we did here. So all we're going to do is hit apply. And then in edit mode, our geometry matches because that's the true geometry of this now. It doesn't have a modifier. This is just what it looks like. So what we're going to do now is because remember we had it, they were all separated, right? So the way that we do that is we hit F3 to search, and I already have it up, but we're going to search for a edge split operation. And an edge split is when you want to look that up, and you want to hit edge split, and you want to hit enter or just click on it, and then we zoom in, and if we look here, this vertice coming this way, this edge right here and this edge right here, all of these are now two edges. These are now separate. So what we can do is hit A to select all, and then up here come down to individual origins. And now that we're in individual origins, what that means is this is the point of reference as to what we do stuff on. So if you were on 3D cursor and you scaled this, right, it's going to scale around that 3D cursor like that. But if you come up here and you go individual origins, then it's going to scale to the origin point of each separate object, each separate mesh. And these are all separate meshes because we just split them, remember? So what this means is that whenever you shrink this, like this triangle over here, is going to shrink towards this center, and this is going to shrink towards its center separately, and that creates a really nice effect that looks like this if you hit S to scale and bring it down a little bit, and it can do things like that. So what we want to do here is kind of find just what looks good to you, and I like mine kind of close like this but still visibly separate, and I think that looks pretty good. And we're almost done with the modeling part. All we really want to do, click this, add modifier in object mode, and we're going to add a solidify because right now these are like planes, and that's not realistic. It looks weird. So we're going to solidify this, and that's going to create a little extra geometry. We don't need to apply that because there's just no real reason to. It'll show up in the render just fine. And then we're going to add under the solidify a bevel modifier, because bevels make things look really nice and realistic, and they add this kind of curve right here. It adds extra geometry on the edges. And then the bevel, if you have a decent enough graphics card, if your PC is not terrible, turn it up to 2. It looks way better on the segments. And just like that, we're done with the modeling part. So next video, we're going to texture this, and I'm going to show you how to make it look really nice. And then the third video after that, real quick, we're just going to animate it. And then you'll have learned some pretty decent techniques, some good modifiers, and I'll teach you a little bit about nodes, a couple animation modifiers that are super useful, keyframes, stuff like that. So just stick around. We'll see.